remember, a less than perfect plan followed ruthlessly is better than the perfect plan that is abandoned. So just buy the film. Whatever you have, just make it work. Test it out. You might be surprised. Maybe you love it. And then you don't have to do anything, additional on top of that to be better. Or maybe you do. But if you do, you're already going to have some knowledge to know what changes to make. So don't use the excuse that your camera gear is holding you back, because at the end of the day, it's not. It's you. You are holding yourself back. You got to get over that. Hey, Raymond here from the Beginner Photography Podcast, and today we are wrapping up the 10-part Photography Manifesto series for you photographers. So if you have been listening throughout the year, then you would know that once per month, I come out with a new episode to further this series called the Photography Manifesto. Now, the idea for the Photography Manifesto came because, well, honestly, I had seen so many ridiculous quote unquote photo hacks or tricks or secrets that professional photographers don't want you to know type videos and even short form content that were just a joke. And I've never really been the type of person to put others down. Never been one to be super confrontational. Like, I'm not going to tell somebody that their ideas are dumb, right? But here I am, because I think that, and depending on how long you've been on the internet, if you remember a number of years ago, there was BuzzFeed, and they became very well known for their clickbait style articles, right? These titles for their articles just to get you to click on them. And every single time it would just be such a letdown, right? How what you eat, what that says about you as a Disney character. You're like, how does that even make sense? But yet people would click on these and then they would be met with absolute trash. They'd be left with nothing. And it didn't matter, because the currency online is attention, and therefore they just continued doing it. And I'm not saying that this is because of BuzzFeed. I'm not saying that this is all of their fault, but they found a formula that works online and others have copied it. And what we're finding today is that there's so much information online that you have to judge the title of a article to determine whether it's going to be information that is useful for you or not. And with so much information online, we're always looking for a shortcut, because we know that there's just no way that we can consume all of that information. So that typically means that we click on those clickbait style articles. And I'll admit it, I do it too. You're not a bad person for doing it, but we recognize that it's not actually helping us. So this Photography Manifesto series is designed to be the antithesis of that. It's supposed to be, maybe it's not a catchy title. Maybe not a lot of people are going to tune in and listen to this. But my hope is that the information in here that has been built using my experience, not only as a professional photographer, but just years of personal experience as well, and dealing with people in front of my camera, dealing with light, that you will be able to learn something that you can take away and actually use in your photography. That's the Photography Manifesto series. So again, if you've been listening this year, you know that there have been 10 rules to my Photography Manifesto. And the 10 rules are that the point of photography is to enrich the human experience. Number 2, to be a halfway decent photographer, you must dedicate all of your time to it. 3, moment matters most in a photograph, not settings. 4, you don't need to know everything about photography to know anything about photography. Number 5, your camera gear is not holding you back. You are holding yourself back. Number 6, if there's no intention, there is no image. Number 7, the only photographer you are in competition with is yourself. Number 8, community is the only external source that will make you a better photographer. Number 9, you can't make money from your creativity as a photographer. And number 10, kill your photography teachers. So what we're going to talk about today is we're going to wrap it all up. We're going to talk about how they all fit together. And now that this is one of the last episodes of 2023, how you can use them to be a better photographer in the coming year. This is a time where we all often look to the new year as a fresh start and a time to make changes, to be the person who we want to be. So figuring out how these all relate to each other so that we can figure out how to actually implement them into our photography practice and our skill and our art is incredibly, incredibly important. So why don't we just go ahead and dive in and start right at the top, Rule number 1, the point of photography is to enrich the human experience. Now, maybe you listened to that episode at the beginning of the year, which, by the way, if you're listening now, you can actually go back and listen to all of the Manifesto episodes in order if you want to. So just head back to January for that one. But the point of photography is to enrich the human experience. Now, when many of you heard that, you reached out to me and said, thank you for that reminder. We often get so wrapped up in gear reviews or settings or YouTube videos that we often forget what is the point of photography. Is the point of photography to win competitions? Is the point of photography to have the best gear? Is the point of photography to be better than everybody else? And the answer is no, it is not. The point of photography is to enrich the human experience. Now, whether that's your human experience because this is a hobby for you and you don't want anybody to see your images because you're just doing this purely for yourself, or if it's enriching the human experience of others, maybe, as a family photographer, as a wedding photographer, you're enriching the lives of others by documenting where they are at this place in time. If you're a landscape photographer, you are enriching the human experience by showing the viewer a world that maybe they haven't experienced themselves. Maybe they don't get to experience in the same way that you do. But because you have the eye, you have the technical ability behind a camera, and you have the skill, you can show off the world in a way that is calming, that is peaceful, that is really interesting. And you are enriching their human experience. Whether you are a photojournalist and you are showing off the human condition, whether you're showing off what people go through, even difficult stories, difficult things to photograph. It's still, I'm thinking of photographers who go to, war-torn nations. They are still enriching the human experience because not only in person are they trying to build a connection with another human being right there, but they're also sharing that story so that others can build empathy or just be educated about what is going on in the world. And that, once again, is enriching the human experience. None of these things have anything to do with the gear. None of them have anything about being the best photographer. It is simply to enrich the human experience. So now that it has been almost a full year since I came out with that full episode, the point of photography is to enrich the human experience, I hope you find yourself getting a quick reset, realizing, if maybe you have gone off the rails a little bit, you have kind of forgotten the bigger message, and you've started to, once again, think all about the gear and how do you build this with that and save money and do all these things that you want to do. And rather than thinking of it that way, thinking, how can this image that I want to take enrich someone's life? And suddenly when you look at it through that lens, you're not worried so much about, frankly, what lens you're using to shoot the photo. You're not worried about, should I have gotten that SD card versus this other SD card, or anything about hard drive speeds, SSD capacity, anything like that. You're thinking about another person, another human, and trying to make their life better in some way. So take this as a moment to, once again, ask yourself, how is my work being meaningful, whether to yourself or to others? Because when it comes to photography, what's so great about it is that not only does everybody see your photo entirely different than the way that you see it, but also we get to share what it is that we're doing. A lot of people in their, let's say, hobbies or business don't necessarily get to share in the same immersive way what it is that they do in the way that we can. Rule number 2 was to be halfway decent at photography, or to be a halfway decent photographer, you must dedicate all of your time to it. And this one probably got the most reaction, I guess, initially from people. I got emails from people who didn't even listen to the episode saying, I guess I'm not going to be a photographer. I got kids. I got a job. I have somebody who I take care of. I have other responsibilities that I have to handle. Are you saying that I can't be a decent photographer because I have other parts of my life that I have to tend to. And that's not what I'm saying at all. This idea that you have to dedicate all of your time to it is scary because we do have other things that we need to do, as a parent myself, as a husband, as a keeper of my lawn. I know that there are lots of things that we need to do in our everyday lives. So how do we dedicate all of our time so that we can become a decent photographer? And the answer is you dedicate all of your available time to doing it. I know that you have responsibilities. Don't give up those responsibilities. I know that you got family members and relationships that you need to tend to. Don't give those up. But if I were to ask you, maybe, what does your nightly routine look like? How many hours a day do you think that you watch TV? What do you do when you're driving in the car? When you're at the gym, what is it that you're doing then? When you're at the doctor's office, just waiting, what are you doing to fill that time? We have time. I think the quote is from the Roman philosopher Seneca, who said, it's not that life is short, it's that we don't use our time properly. And this exactly tackles that idea right there. Maybe while you're in the car, rather than listening to today's top hits that plays the same 19 songs over and over and over again on repeat, you listen to a podcast. Maybe while you're at the doctor's office waiting for whatever, you're in any sort of line, you're reading blog posts of, from interesting photographers whose work that you enjoy, learning about the things that they're doing and how it's changing their images. Maybe it's rather than winding down for 3 hours at night in front of the TV watching, whatever, which, no judgment. Like, I watch TV too. But maybe instead of 3 hours, maybe it's 2 hours. And you spend that first hour going on a walk with your dog. And while you're out, you just bring your camera and just photograph whatever comes up. We have this kind of invisible time that we don't realize that we do, where we can kind of multitask. Because when we fill those moments with intentional decisions of looking into things that we're interested in rather than just mindlessly scrolling or doing something that we're just going to completely forget about, but the only reason why we're doing it is because we have this time to fill. When we start replacing that with these things that we're intentional about, when we replace that time with, a really thought-provoking article about how this one photographer shoots underexposed, but then pushes the exposure up in editing and how that affects his images. Or how another photographer, when she goes out to shoot landscapes, she uses a special type of filter that you had never heard of before, and what that does to her images and how it saves her time maybe in editing later. When you start filling your time with that sort of material and actually shooting, say going on a walk or just being more intentional with your camera, now those other moments of quote unquote invisible time that we have, we're going to be able to, you'll find that you are just naturally thinking more about photography in those moments rather than, let's see what's going on Facebook with the people who I don't really care about. Maybe that's just me. I don't know. But when you do that, you're going to start to build connections as a photographer. And if photography is important to you, you should try to really make these moments count for you. I know how hard it is to have a hobby. Outside of photography, I love playing disc golf, and that requires me to be out of the house for several hours at a time to go play disc golf with some friends. That sucks to be away from your family. So sometimes I don't, so that I can spend more time with my family. But sometimes building connections with friends or friends of friends or learning to be better at disc golf is important to me at that moment. So I make the decision to say, hey guys, you know what? Family, I'm going to be gone for a few hours. I'm going to go play and then I'll be back. But when I'm back, I'm here with you. So it's not about saying I'm only going to do this thing all of the time. I'm going to neglect my work. I'm going to neglect my family and my responsibilities just so that I can focus on photography so that I can be a halfway decent photographer. It's live your life. But if photography is important to you, fill the rest of your time. Figure out ways to fill your time with thinking about photography, with looking at photography, shooting photography. Dedicate all of your time to it. And you will become at least a halfway decent photographer, I promise you. Rule number 3 is that moment matters most in a photograph and not camera settings. This one is hard. And they're actually two very different things. That's what makes them so hard. I'd be willing to bet that before you got into photography, say before you bought the camera, you knew that you wanted to get into it, but you didn't buy the camera yet. The reason why you wanted to get into photography was not the math that's involved. It's not the numbers. It's not, imagine what this thing that I'm looking at right in front of me would look like at 3,500 Kelvin of a white balance. You probably didn't think about those things. You thought, wow, what a beautiful sky. You thought, oh, my child's laugh is something that I want to remember for a long time. What you thought about was the moment that's right in front of you, not the settings. But somehow when we get the camera, we start obsessing over settings. We start obsessing over making sure that we're doing it right, quote unquote right. But it is the moment that matters most in a photograph. It's not settings. And what I said earlier, these are two different things. These are two very different things that I'm talking about. Because once you get to the point to where you know your settings, it's like riding a bike. Like, sure, there are ways to, once you learn how to ride a bike, you figured out 96% of it, right? That last, maybe 90%, that last 10%, you can get better at if you continue to hone your skills and you're looking for something specific. But when you learn how to ride a bike, you want to learn how to ride a bike so that you can go around in your neighborhood, play with friends, not so that if I'm going up a hill, I'm going to be in the second gear. If I'm doing this, I'm going to do that. You're not worried about the technical side of riding a bike. You're just riding a bike because it's fun. Don't be worried about the settings of your camera. That's not photography. That's learning how to use your camera. Once you learn how to use your camera, you can forget about the camera and just start having fun. Focusing on those moments. Focusing on this moment in time right now. Whether that is that beautiful sky. Whether it is, look at that bird sitting in that tree. That bird is right here, right now. Or whether it is your kids at a school play or a bride and a groom on their wedding day and all of their friends. Whatever the moment is, focus on that, not your settings. When you move past your settings and you can focus on the moment, that is when you start to learn photography. Rule number 4 is that you don't need to know everything about photography to know anything about photography. So, story time. A few years ago, I got my son when he was, this was probably 6 years ago. So maybe he was 4 at the time. Just this little toy kid camera, right? I wanted to give him something so that he could just kind of walk around and take photos of his toys and our backyard and jumping on the trampoline and like stuff like that. Just to see what was interesting to him. And those photos that he took with this toy camera, I think it was 0.3 megapixels. It might have been 1.3 megapixels. Regardless, garbage quality. The photos were interesting. I thought that they were so interesting. Not from a technical perspective, obviously, but to see what was interesting to him, to see how he saw the world, to see what he wanted to take photos of and how he took those photos was so interesting. And there's that term beginner's luck, right? You're not so engulfed in having to know everything and make sure that you're doing it perfectly to play the game. You're just like trying to figure it out. And because your mind is kind of loose about the whole idea, you're just trying to, win this thing. And you're not worried about the nuances of what could happen this, what could happen that, if this thing does that thing. You're just playing the game. And the term beginner's luck comes from people winning with very little, knowledge, not knowing the entire game properly. And you can do the same thing in photography. Just because you don't know how to shoot manual yet, just because you don't know every possible composition that you could shoot, just because you don't know how to master Lightroom, just because you don't know everything about light and where it needs to be at what time and how to use it and how to modify it and all of these things, that doesn't mean that you don't know anything about photography. What did I say was the last rule? Moment matters most in a photo, not settings. If you focus on moment, I promise you, I would much rather have a photo of a good moment that was poor technically, shutter speed too slow, the aperture was too small, ISO was too high, but the moment is good. I'd much rather have that than have a super boring image that was technically perfect. Here, you want to take a technically perfect photo? Find a white or a gray wall in your house and point your camera at it. fill the frame so that it's all white or gray or whatever, and set the light meter inside to properly exposed, right at the 0, not overexposed, not underexposed. And that is a technically perfect photo. Congratulations, you did it. Well, I'll tell you what, that's boring. You're not going to print that photo. You're not. There's no moment in it. You don't have to know everything about photography to know anything about photography. I guess better put, just because you don't know everything in photography doesn't mean that you don't know anything. So get out there and shoot. Find the things that you like. Dive deeper into what catches your eye. Dive deeper into that so that you can become a photographer who produces images that you like. And I don't know anything better than that. And even if a photographer doesn't shoot in manual, that doesn't mean that they can't be a professional photographer. Just because a photographer doesn't have a full-size DSLR, 70 to 200, that doesn't mean that they can't take a good photo. I bet you've taken a good photo or two with your cell phone. I bet you've taken a really bad photo with your dedicated camera. It's not the gear. You can do it. Which brings me to my next point. Your camera gear is not holding you back. You are holding yourself back. That's the next rule, the next photography manifesto rule. Number 3, 4, 5. Number 5. Your camera gear is not holding you back. You are holding yourself back. I can't tell you how many times I've thought to myself of a photo that I wanted to take and immediately thought, well, I would need this to do it. I would need that thing to do it. A sturdier tripod, a really right stuff bracket, a specialty, I don't know, zoom flash, or a large softbox with an egg crate, like all these things. You can think about all these things. In fact, okay, here's what's up. Right now in my life, I want to dive deeper into film photography. I want to make it a larger part of my life for dedicated projects. Not necessarily like just like everyday life photos, but like photo projects. I want to shoot them on film. And I am so hung up right now on the type of film that I want to use, the camera that I want to use. Specifically, there's 2 versions of it. They both have the lens fixed to the camera, so you can't replace the lens. And there's 2 versions. There's one with a 90mm lens and one with a 65mm lens. And I, for the life of me, cannot make a decision because I can see times where I would need either. Right now, the camera gear is holding me back. That's what I'm telling myself, but it's not. I'm holding myself back. I'm holding myself back. I have a 35mm film camera. Maybe I should just grab that and just start shooting film to get back into the habit of shooting film. Get better at it. Get better at metering film. Learn a specific film stock so that when I do feel confident with it and I have a project that would specifically lend itself to film, I'm not worried about the, what lens is going to be right. What film stock should I use for this? How does this work in certain conditions? How many stops of latitude does it have? I'm not going to be worried about that. I should just go out and just start shooting film. In fact, let's see. I'm just going to do this right now. Okay, I'm going to Amazon and I am going to buy some Kodak Gold 200. Why is Kodak Gold 200 the film that I want to shoot forever? No, it's probably not. But you know what? It is at $10 per roll. It is the cheapest currently right now of 36 exposure film. So I'm just going to go with that. I can get it everywhere. And when the time comes to upgrade to medium format, there we go. It's on its way. When the time comes to, move to medium format, I know that Kodak Gold is also in 120, which I can use medium format. So therefore, right now, there's an example where I feel like the camera gear is holding me back, but it's not. I'm holding myself back. I'm holding myself back. Remember, a less than perfect plan followed ruthlessly is better than the perfect plan that is abandoned. So just buy the film. Whatever you have, just make it work. Test it out. You might be surprised. Maybe you love it. And then you don't have to do anything, additional on top of that to be better. Or maybe you do. But if you do, you're already going to have some knowledge to know what changes to make. So don't use the excuse that your camera gear is holding you back, because at the end of the day, it's not. It's you. You are holding yourself back. You got to get over that. That brings me to Photography Manifesto rule number 6, which is if there's no intention, there's no image. What is the difference between just a snapshot that you're neighbor takes of his car versus an image that you went out and planned and really like made your own. It's intention. It's intention. If the photos that your neighbor is showing you, every single one is taken at a height of 5'8" off of the ground with just a standard camera on his phone and there's nothing behind it. It's just, look at this thing that is in front of me. That's a snapshot. Snapshots are fine, but it's not an image. If you have something that you want to be proud of, you need to put in work to get there. You have to put in work to have something that you're proud of. You don't just stumble upon something that you're proud of. You may surprise yourself at times with how good something is with very little effort, but you don't just have something and say, wow, I'm really proud of this, knowing that you really didn't do anything. Oh, I just opened up my phone. I just pressed the button and that's it. Sure, it's a beautiful sky, but that's it. An image needs intention. And how you bring in that intention is everything. Being intentional about your composition. Maybe you want to make images of your kids that really matter. Well, I'll tell you what, get the camera lower, get it closer to their eye level. Be intentional about where the camera is so that you can give the perception of what the world looks like at their view. Not only that, it makes them larger in the frame. It gives them power. It gives them weight in the image. It doesn't make them look like a kid. It makes them look like somebody who's important. If you want to photograph that sunset as you walk out of the grocery store, don't just take a photo like full of the sky. Is it beautiful? Yeah, sure. But what's crazy about this moment is that you're in a parking lot. You're not at the Grand Canyon. You're not at Yosemite. You are in a parking lot. Show that off. Be intentional about it. Find the return cart corral and get that in the foreground so that we see, oh my gosh, we are in a parking lot. Like, what are the odds? Add some juxtaposition to your photo. Make your photo about something. Say something with your photo. You don't do that on accident. That can only be done with intention. Every decision, from your exposure to your composition to subject matter to your lens choice to your aperture, shutter speed, ISO, all these things, your settings, they can all be chosen intentionally. That's not saying that they all have to be chosen intentionally, that you have to make intentional choices for every single one, but being intentional with as many as you can, even if it's just one, gives an image its power. So if there's no intention in your photo, you're just taking it because, well, here we are. You got nothing. You got a snapshot. Snapshots are fine, but don't ask how you can improve. Don't ask what could be done to make this photo better, because you did nothing to it. You opened up your phone, you took the photo, that was it. It went away. Be intentional. If you want to create images that matter, be intentional. Know what it is that you're shooting. Know how you want to shoot it. Because when you look online and you see the work of other photographers and you say, wow, that's really something, I promise you, it is not a snapshot. Speaking of other photographers, Photography Manifesto rule number 7 is that the only photographer you are in competition with is yourself. There's 1.5 billion photographers on Instagram. There's 1.5 trillion photographers, not 1.5 trillion, but there's a lot of photographers in your town, online, in forums, all over the place. And when you want to create images that matter, that have intention, that are designed to enrich the human experience, that have a beautiful moment in them, when you want to create images like that, you say to yourself, well, I have to be somewhere. I have to have some sort of name. I can't just share these in a void and have them enrich the human experience. I have to share them somehow. So you naturally start looking to places like social media, of course, where there's already 1 billion other photographers. And it is natural to compare yourself to these people. But the thing is that you can't. It's not a fair fight. It's not a fight at all. The kid who is the star quarterback of his high school football team is going to be nothing compared to, a star NFL quarterback. Even though they're both quarterbacks, it's not the same. So many differences. You cannot compare them on any level or on any playing field that is level. Your work can't be compared to somebody who grew up having an entirely different life experience than you. Your images can't be compared to somebody who shoots exclusively on 4x5 film with an old field camera. You can't be compared to any other photographer but yourself. Sure, you can look at another photographer's work and say, wow, their use of light is amazing. I wish that I could do that, so that you can then use that information to learn and become better yourself. But you'll never be better than another photographer because they are creating images for their own reasons. You don't know why they're creating images. You don't know how they see the world. I don't know how, I've lived with my wife for more than a decade. I have no idea how she sees the world. Same with my kids. I know that they see it, but I don't know exactly how they see the world. You can't possibly know how another photographer sees the world, so you cannot compete with what it is that you don't know. That's like saying, oh, today, let's just use the quarterback example, like you're going to go up against another quarterback today. Like, oh, that's it? Okay. Oh, this kid is in the 8 and under league at his elementary school. That's not a competition at all. You're not the same. You're always going to be at a different level than them. Even if you can be closely matched, but you'll never be in a competition with them. You can't be in a competition with other photographers. The only way that you grow as a photographer is to realize, what is it that you like about your work? How can I do more of that? What is it that I'm not happy about in my work? How can I either stop doing that or get better at that thing? Because I'll tell you, when you can create images that you are proud of, that you love, man, there is not much of a better feeling, even if others, they don't see it. I've taken photos that I adore, and I show them to others, and they're just like, oh, that's cool. I'm not taking these photos to impress you. I'm not taking photos of my kids to impress my wife. I'm taking photos for myself. And I'll tell you what, if others like them, sweet. But if they don't, I don't care. Because they're for me. So the only photographer who you should be competing with is the photographer who you were yesterday. How can you be better than the photographer who you were yesterday? Did the photographer who you were yesterday struggle at a session using a flash? Okay, great. Well, how can you learn how to use flash better? Don't look at other photographers and assume that what it is that they're doing, you have to do as well, and you have to do it better than them. Never assume that. Because maybe they've figured out what it is that they like to do. And that's enough for them. Cool. The only photographer who you are in competition with is yourself. Start competing. Photography Manifesto rule number 7. Nope, 8. 8, 9, 10. Yep, 8. Is that community is the only external source that will make you a better photographer. What are the other types of external sources? Well, there's podcasts, there's blogs, there's YouTube videos, there's courses, there's all these things. All these things you could do. You could watch a YouTube video. You could learn how to light. You could read a blog about how to organize your Lightroom catalog. You could listen to a podcast about how to be a better photographer. But that doesn't change anything for you. It doesn't do anything for you until you do something about it, until you take action. And all of those sources, you're just consuming them. Blog post, you're just reading it. YouTube video, you're just watching it. Podcast, you're just listening. A community is the only place where you can take action to be a better photographer. Even with courses, once again, you're just consuming. Community is the only thing that you can do online that is collaborative, that you can contribute to, that you can interact with. When you go out and you learn something on YouTube or here on this podcast, that's great. Cool. So does a bunch of other people. When you go out and actually do the thing and you take action, holy cow, you have done a lot more than the majority of other people who consume the exact same thing. But now when you take that photo and you share it with others and get feedback on your work and hear their thoughts about how it can be better, holy cow. That's as good as it gets. That's the only way that you will be a better photographer, because now you're not only going out and just doing the thing for yourself, but getting the advice, hearing from others, building relationships with others, building trust with others, so that when you do run into a roadblock like this, or you're trying something new and you can hear their thoughts and they give you their honest opinions, and now you can go out and do it again. Better. Make some changes. Do it with more emotion. Do it with less shutter speed. I don't know. You change it up to make it better. Make it better for yourself. It's the only external source that will make you a better photographer, whether that is online or it is in person. Workshops, so important. Photo walks, so important. Online communities, so important to becoming the photographer who you want to be. Because if all that you're doing is just watching, reading, listening to photography information, well, that's great. Congratulations. But you're not doing anything for yourself. That's not actively making you a better photographer. Shooting is the only thing that's going to make you a better photographer. And when you get that feedback from your community and you go out and you make it better, well, you just learned something. And now you are a better photographer than you were yesterday. You competed with a photographer who you were yesterday, and now you are better because of community. Now, some of you may be looking to start a business at some point. The allure of making money with your camera is pretty sweet because from a business standpoint, photography is relatively cheap to get into. You know, for say $1,000, you got everything that you need to provide a service to somebody and make some money. Imagine saying that to a plumber. Well, you need a truck. Oh, well, there's 50 grand right there. You need all the tools. Well, there's another 100 grand right there. And you need to be licensed. Oh, geez. Well, there's years of my life and even more money. Photography is a relatively cheap way to make some money. Honestly, it's great. So I get the allure. And that brings me to Photography Manifesto rule number 9 is that you can't make money from your creativity as a photographer. You got into photography because you have a creative eye. You see the world a little differently and you want to showcase that to the world. You want to show it off or, you know, just for yourself, whatever. And you think to yourself, how great would it be to do this for others? How great would it be if others paid me to show them the world that I see? How great would that be? So if somebody reaches out and they asks you to shoot a family session, even though normally you just, you know, photograph like little ponds and you know, when you go on little nature walks and stuff, and you're like, this is it. This is my chance to make some money with my camera and show off how I see the world. And the first thing that you do is look at how other photographers shoot, you know, a family session. Because now that money is involved, you don't want to let them down. Now that money is involved, you're going to play it safe. Now that money's involved, you are choosing to favor the safe shot rather than your creativity. The thing that made you love photography the most, you are now giving up because that is the safest thing to do. Because if you didn't and you shot with your creativity, like pure creativity, with the people in front of you who are paying you and you sent them the photos and they were like, this is not what I was expecting. That would hurt so bad because in the beginning, it is so hard to separate yourself from what it is that you created. It feels like they are attacking and questioning you. So as I said, you play it safe. You play it safe. And even top photographers, like professional photographers who have been doing this for decades, who are known in the industry for being creative, for having that creative vision and making something really, really unique. That's more of like a collaboration effort. You get there not because you're just going out and shooting whatever you want. You're going out there because, well, you have the experience of things that you've done in the past, and you're trying to bring that experience to a client who also has expectations of what it is that they want. It is impossible to make money from your creativity as a photographer. Once it becomes transactional, you are shooting for them. And when I say it like that, it sounds real bad. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. I did it for more than 10 years. I tried to bring my creativity to weddings. Sometimes it would get shot down, sometimes it didn't. But at the end of the day, I didn't know these people. I was shooting for them. And therefore, I told myself, no, it's okay. Like I'm going to shoot the photos that they want. Not necessarily the creative photos that I want. Maybe I just want to photograph everybody's shoes all day. How interesting would that be, right? Oh, these are the shoes that people wear to weddings. Well, I can't necessarily do that because, well, this couple has an expectation and they have paid me for my services to take photos of them in a certain way. So I'm going to do that. And that's fine. Like I made good money. I thought that I felt fulfilled creatively, right? Because I was working with the camera. It's the goal that I wanted. But I just, you know what? I wrote this quote down yesterday. Hold on, let me find it. Here it is. I listened to the Daily Stoic podcast yesterday, and on it, Ryan Holiday had the guest Shane Parrish, and he said, it's one thing to know what you want. It's another thing to know what's worth wanting in the first place. I thought that I had wanted to just make a living with my camera. I thought that that's all that I wanted. But that wasn't it. That wasn't the thing that I wanted. And actually, I don't know how I would phrase exactly what it is that I did want. But right now, I'll tell you what I want. Right now, I want my camera to follow my curiosities. The point is, if you just say that I want to make a living with my camera, well, you can get there and still be unhappy. I'll be the first person to tell you. I wasn't fulfilled. It wasn't doing it for me. It wasn't the life that I wanted to live. But I was doing the thing that I thought that I wanted. So defining your goal and what is important to you is extremely important. So do that. And from that, you can make money. But purely from your creativity, you can't you can't have a client-photographer relationship based around creativity when money is involved. It's just skill, not creativity. And that brings me to my last point of the Photography Manifesto series, which is kill your photography teachers. Why are you listening to this podcast right now? You're listening because you want to learn something about photography. You want to learn how to be a better photographer. You want to learn how to take great photos. You want to learn how to document your life. You want to learn how to start a photography business. But when is enough? When is enough? We have stopped trying sometimes to favor learning more. But at some point, you've learned enough. And I'd be willing to bet you know more than you actually think that you know right now. And going out and shooting is going to be more beneficial to learning photography and becoming a better photographer than listening to one more podcast episode, reading one more blog, watching one more YouTube video, hoping that you get that one tip that's going to change everything for you. It's not. Can you get helpful information on YouTube, blogs, podcasts? Absolutely. But will it make you a photographer? No, it won't. At some point, you have to cut the umbilical cord and just go out and shoot. And realize that shooting is more important than consuming. Consuming is important. Sure. That's why we went to school for, so many years as kids. We were learning so that we can become functional adults. And you do need to learn something about photography in order to get started. But at some point, you need to go out and do the thing. Imagine if medical students just learned about medical stuff all day and didn't go into the clinical situation and actually do a thing. We'd have some really smart people who couldn't do anything. Don't let that happen to you. Don't let that happen to you. So here's what I want you to do in the coming year. Here's how you can use all of this information to become a better photographer. One, really find a why. Find a why. Why do you shoot? Why do you shoot? Figure out whose human experience you are trying to enrich with photography. Is it yours? Why are you shooting? Are you shooting because it's a release for you? Maybe you have a stressful job. Are you shooting because you really like making stuff, right? You like the technical aspect of it, putting something together, knowing how it works and being able to produce something? Are you doing it for your kids? Why are you doing this? Whose human experience are you trying to enrich and why? Write that down. Next, figure out the areas in your life where you have that invisible time that it just kind of, you fill it with scrolling or just reading your email that you've already done before and not responding to. Maybe that's just me. Figure out how you can find a blog, find a photo book, a small photo book, an educational photo book. Put that in your bag, in your backpack, in your purse, wherever. And next time you go to open up Facebook or Instagram, stop, pull out the book. Just start thumbing through it. Just start picking up some information. Next time you get all caught up on, your camera settings and stuff, forget about all that. When you're out there and you're shooting and it's just not working, put it in aperture priority. Put it in auto. Who cares? Just focus on the moment. See if you can actually see the moment and capture it in a photograph without even thinking about your settings. See if you can do that. If you can take a photo that means something at, f16, like there's not a lot of depth of field that everybody loves so much, well, then you can make it better once you learn your camera settings. But focus on the moment. Realize right now that where you're at in photography, you can move forward. And even if you don't know much at all, but you just know how to press the button, know that that's enough to shoot. Know that that's enough to take images that mean something. And just because you don't have the greatest gear in the world doesn't mean you can't take a good photo. Don't let that idea of needing the 70-200, needing the 85 1.2, needing a full frame camera, don't let those hold you back. Intentionally try to limit yourself. Go out for a day of shooting with just one battery, one small SD card, one camera, one lens. That's it. Are you going to miss some stuff? Yeah, probably. But are you going to get stuff that you didn't expect? Yeah, also that, because now you're thinking differently. You know that you have limitations and you have to fit within them. You're breaking yourself out of this mental chain that your camera and its gear is what creates an image. Next, be more intentional with your images. You know what? This year, just focus on your composition. Just focus on your composition in your images. Figure out what is the subject of this photo and how can I make them feel however you want to make them feel more so in this image. Do you want to make them feel powerful? Do you want to show off the scale of this landscape? Do you want to make the viewer feel like a little confused? Like, wow, what is going on here? And start playing with the composition and seeing how you can do that more. Be intentional. Start competing with yourself. Ask yourself, who is the photographer who I was yesterday and who's the photographer who I want to be today? What's the gap? Where are they different? And how can I get closer to that photographer who I want to be today? While you shoot, think about your community. Be a part of a community. Don't just sit there and take photos in silence. Don't just sit there and not be a part of something. Join a community. Start conversations. Just read conversation. Just lurk. Lurk. I feel like I'm trying to say look, but I'm saying lurk, and lurk is the correct word, but it feels like I'm trying to say look. It's lurk. Just lurk around. That makes it worse. It's like I'm trying to say look around. Anyway, just be in the community and just consume what is happening within it. You don't have to join one day and say, that's it, I'm the newest member of this community. I'm going all in. I'm going to be a part of every conversation. You're going to get burnt out. Like, just be a part of it for a little bit, see how it works. And then if you got something that you want to say, then just say it. And when the time comes, ask yourself, are you trying to make money from your photography or are you just doing it as a hobby? And whatever the answer is, it's fine. And if the answer is both, well, that's fine too. But learn to separate them when you're shooting. Learn to shoot for clients and learn to shoot for yourself. Figure out what those differences are. How can you be more creative in your own personal photography? And how can you take better images that your client wants? And lastly, just shoot. Just go out there. Forget this. Turn off this podcast. Just pick up your camera and take a photo. Just go out and shoot. What interests you? I don't know what interests you. I'm asking you. Figure out how you can photograph that thing. Just go out and shoot some. Figure out what it is that you like so that you can enrich the human experience of others. Whew. That was a lot today. That was a lot. I hope that you stuck around with me here to the end. This Photography Manifesto series has been something that I've been working on for a while, and I hope that you have found, I was going to say joy. I found joy in it. I hope that you found joy in it too. But ultimately, I hope that you found something that you can actually take away. Actually. These aren't photography hacks. These are things that you can use and will be able to use in your photography forever. So remember, get out, shoot some. Shoot some more. Because the more that you shoot today, the better of a photographer you will be tomorrow. That's all that I got for you today. Until next week, talk to you soon.
Thank you for listening to the Beginner Photography Podcast. Keep shooting, and we'll see you next week.